A localized tornado outbreak is possible for parts of Illinois and even parts of Indiana, with a broad 10% hatched tornado risk over central Illinois, a very large 5% slight risk, which encompasses basically the entire state of Indiana here, as well as Chicago, all the way to Davenport here in Iowa, a very large area. And then even around that is a very, very large 2% marginal risk, at least for the Midwest in March. This is also accompanied with a large slight risk of wind damage and hail over the same region of that tornado risk, including Chicago in both cases here. So we're going to see an all hazards risk here at play, but tornadoes are going to be the main threat. So I'm going to be looking at this setup again. We looked at this yesterday some. I'll talk a little bit about what I saw yesterday, what has improved. It's basically everything is uptrended since then. We'll be talking about this setup, and let's just get into it. So here's our 500 millibar map. It's the wrap run, and the wrap run has been pretty accurate so far. I do still want to note that the NAM and the wrap are quite different still. The wrap has much more intense moisture compared to the NAM. However, both of them are beginning to line up quite well here. So you can see we have this 500 millibar low. This is at 9Z. This is 9Z initialization. We don't have any more past that, but this is based on real observations. So if we took 9Z, this was really what we had going on in our atmosphere. As we move forward with time here, you'll watch as this slowly meanders off to the east, but we can see Illinois here. Let's zoom in. Oops, didn't mean to go that close. Midwest sector here. Let's go to wind speed. There we go. You can see this trough begins to approach. This is 18Z. Pretty good diffluence up here. 250 millibars. Yeah, pretty strong flow here. A little bit of divergence, it looks like, as well. Temperature, though, is going to be a real thing to be paying attention to. So the wrap rock model has quite a cold core low here. Degrees hitting negative 25 in some locations, negative 23, a very large area. As we get closer, as we move on with time, it actually has a kind of plume of lower temperatures here as well. Negative 20s over much of Illinois, overspreading the region here. 850 millibars, we have lots of moisture. You can see some of the 850 millibar dew points are hitting pretty good levels for that level. Temperature as well should be pretty warm, so we have a good amount of warm air advection here throughout our lower levels. At the surface as well, we can watch this surface low form. At 9Z, we had this low here in Kansas. This has slowly meandered off to the northeast. And it kind of brings a strange look to it, especially when you look at the dew point. We have a kind of long occluded front here, kind of a cold front. It's a little bit, it's a cold front, like dry line setup. It's kind of strange how this works, but the boundary is here. This is going to be our main initiating boundary for the day. We're going to have our warm front right here. That's going to be our main boundaries. When we look at our dew points here, we can see that there is this moisture gradient somewhere around that line. There is a little bit more moisture lacking behind it as well. It's a little bit strange how this is setting up. Eventually, you'll get that really tightening up right there around 4 p.m. Central Time. You can see a little better on here as well. Dew points over here are a lot drier. This is more moist air. So we have this warm front here. And we have, bad drawing, but a little bit limited. We have this front here. We end up with a lot bigger sector because of this, right? So this is not a fast-moving cold front by any means, but it's slowly meandering off to the east, so it means there's kind of a larger open warm sector than we initially saw. In my last video, we had this warm front actually getting a lot higher in north, and that was kind of the main area I was paying attention to. I do still think we can see some warm frontal storms. As a whole, the setup is mostly confined now to what we're seeing from that line right there, the boundary right here. You can see it pretty well. This is a vorticity in 3 Cape. You can see 3 Cape is pretty prominent in there. Let's go 3 Cape now. Yeah, you can see 3 Cape is pretty prominent throughout this period. The wrap model has this really increasing as we get to the late night hours, or the evening hours here. 22Z is 5 p.m. Here's 7 p.m. right as sunset is happening here. Very large and broad area of low-level instability here. Especially down here in Kentucky and Tennessee, with higher values, and some regions closer to that warm front. There's definitely going to be this particular risk in this zone here because of how much instability there is at the lower levels. Surface-based Cape is not as impressive as you usually see with any supercell setup. However, it does really begin to blow up there as well. due to those 500 millibar temperatures. So we're seeing steep lapse rates in the mid-levels. If you look at our mid-level lapse rates, you'll see that here. We have some steeper lapse rates here due to the colder air aloft. And this will really help to increase our increase our CAPE. Honestly, I can take a sounding out here. Just trying to look at satellite radar here, or satellite as well. One thing that's also helping the setup is going to be some cloud cover in the morning. We got this loop because it is causing my computer some trouble right now. But yeah, some of this cloud cover here, see it's actually helping to limit the temperatures, which will help to keep our storms in a more saturated environment here. We have all these clouds here over much of our area. Remember, our enhanced risk is somewhere in this vicinity, so we'll be keeping a lot of this instability from really becoming. It'll keep the cloud heights closer to the ground, more surface-based storms, because you'll have our temperature and dew point close to each other, leading to saturation and quick development at the surface there. So let me take a sounding out ahead of these. Our enhanced risk, actually, let me go back to that just to make sure we have that to look at here. The enhanced risk is sprawling more of central Illinois. The RAP model is not showing this as much. I believe the NAM might be. The NAM shows a little bit more southern extent to this instability here, but still not super impressive on the NAM. However, the NAM definitely does not have this warm front going nearly as far north. Yeah, look at NAM Nest as well. I'm sure that'll go similar. Yeah, NAM Nest is a similar product here. I do apologize for difficulties. I'm not in my normal recording location. But you can see here, NAM has pretty well veered surface flow, a little bit off, or not veered, but we have an easterly component to these surface wind vectors, and pretty strong surface flow here as well. That's really the main reason why this is where that enhanced risk is located at the moment. Let me just take a NAM sounding if they have them. I'm hoping. Let's see. Lots of things loading right now. I do apologize. Let's see what this NAM sounding looks like. You can really see you can see the environment here. A lot broader of a warm sector than we were talking about yesterday. Yesterday, that occlusion was really narrowing a lot of our warm sector to really right here in northern Illinois. But since then, it has expanded to more of central Illinois. But northern Illinois is certainly still at risk, I think. Sure, NAM sounding. I will say the NAM has been on the low end of the setup, but you can definitely see what we have going on. Lots of warm air advection to low levels. It's honestly, the NAM has been having a warm bias at 500 millibars, I think. That's part of why we're not seeing nearly as much CAPE in this SQT here. A little bit of capping possible as well on the NAM. 3 CAPE is still there in some regards. I think this NAM sounding, I don't believe the NAM is correctly showing this setup. It has been trending more towards the RAP as time has been going on. It's like a RAP sounding in this area, because I'm sure it's likely to be more extreme as well. RAP also has a lot better moisture, so let's look at our moisture content. 18Z, you'll see we have pretty widespread 50s, but higher 50s near that warm front as well. And as this kind of gets cut off, a lot of this moisture gets pushed down. We actually see a kind of moisture increase along much of the region there. Okay, here's our RAP sounding. You can see a little bit better what I'm talking about here. One thing to note here, though, is our temperature here is a little bit large for what you'd want to see. So you can imagine if this temperature was even larger, you'd have even higher cloud heights, or cloud-based heights, which would lead to a lot of this low-level shear being kind of irrelevant for this setup. But 3 CAPE here is really blowing up, and that's a big part of this setup is that low-level instability, coupled with any surface vorticity, could really help to spin any circulations upward into tornadoes. You can see those lapse rates as we get higher up here. 700 millibar lapse rate's pretty good. That's after we've hit saturation, so that's a really good indicator of the more instability there is. There could be some low top supercells. In the last video, I talked a lot about how this related to Davies et al. 2006, and the parameters are still very much in line with that. The RAP and the NAM both have parameters very much in line with that classic cold core setup we talked about yesterday. Here's our setup. Just a reminder of where the risk area is, frankly for myself as well. More so central and eastern Illinois here. So yeah, and mixed dew point, you can see moisture is very good for the majority of the profile. Let's look at our cams now. Let's see how the HRRR run. We have 12Z. You have 12Z, that's great. Let's see how the 12Z HRRR, fresh off the press, you can see it's going right now. We have some of those early morning showers, which are likely to dissipate. We do have a little convection ahead of this, so a little bit messy it looks like here. This has downtrended a little bit. We saw a little more discrete development on some of the last HRRR runs. This one in particular, you can see numerous discrete cells. Some are beginning to just congeal into a line. You can see here, especially central Illinois, many discrete locations. Even after dark here in Indiana, I believe we might see our risk get extended south a little bit. I do like the 3 cape we have going on in that region, especially. Um, yeah, so lots of this is more linear as well, but lots of possible QLCS tornadoes could be down there. Let me surface vorticity again. 3 cape looks 3 cape is a little bit less impressive than it was yesterday. But we again the broader warm sector makes me think this could be more of a this will help our environment